The Master Tavern Keeper's History of the Old World. Advanced Heroquest. Tavern Gossip. Two weeks earlier. Good evening, Master Dwarf. You have returned, although you've caught us at a low ebb, I'm afraid.
Well met, Master Tavern Keeper. But aren't either Heinrich or Magnus in their rooms?
In body, Magnus is, but in spirit he is long gone. Too much drink. He's sleeping off. He puked his guts up proper all over your usual table, whilst he and Heinrich were talking with a couple of local fellas. That necromancer, Valdetane, and the buccaneer, Murdoch Volkman. After that, those three disappeared off. I don't know where, like. But no doubt they're up to no good. Volkman has had a string of bad luck, and has been stranded here in Tobaro for about a year now. But he's not a bad sort. I hear he's a fine bloodhound. I even heard that the usurper Broglio used him to track down the murderer known as Jacopo the Headtaker, not long after he took over. A bit of a showpiece, to be honest, so as to throw off some of his detractors. But, well, then he showed his true colours. Either way, though, it was a relief to get the Headtaker off the streets.
Who was this Jacopo the Headtaker? I've not heard of him.
Ah, well, no one knows for sure who it was. Those details were not revealed. But everyone assumes it's a he, tore through the city on a brutal killing spree back last month. He had a thing for young girls. He'd stalk them, kidnap them, do Shalia knows what to them, then dump their brutalized and beheaded bodies by the docks. Just under a dozen girls suffered this fate. The injuries to each worse than the one before. The first murder occurred both before the invasion and the coup. My better half became quite obsessed by the story and cut out and kept clippings from the local pamphlets that covered it. I'll dig it out if you're interested.
Aye, I am.
Well, just a moment then. I think I saw it near the wine. Ah, yes. Here it is. Here you go, Master Hammerhelm. It begins here with the murder in Porto. The Navigator's Eyes. Murder in Porto. 6th of Brausite, 1563. A young girl named Emilia Elisabetta Lombardi, aged 14, of Porto, never returned home after spending the afternoon of the 4th with friends by the docks. Instead, her headless body was discovered at dawn on the 5th of the northern quayside. She had been set upon and brutally maltreated by a man or men at present unknown. The City Watch are investigating the bloody incident. The Tabaran Star, a harbour horror, 7th of Brausite, 1563. A second girl, now lying unidentified at the mortuary, Porto, has been ferociously attacked, then beheaded. Her body was discovered on the landing of a stone staircase of a building off the southern wharf, a tenement occupied by the poor labouring class. A lodger, going early to his work, found the body. The girl had been cut in well over 30 places. No weapon was found near her, and her murderer has left no trace. She is a young teenager of average height, has black hair and a large round face, and apparently belonged to the lowest class. The Siren's Call. Another brutal murder in Porto. 14th of Browsite, 1563. Early yesterday morning, a sailor named Rossi was coming down the gangplank of his ship when he discovered the headless body of a girl lying in front of the alley across from the boat. Rossi at once called the city watch and a local apothecary, and physician Elio Esposito of Upper Porto made an examination of the girl and pronounced life extinct, giving it as his opinion that she had been brutally murdered and decapitated elsewhere, and then her body had been left in the harbour at least 2 hours after her death. The girl was apparently between 11 and 15 years of age, about 5'3" in height, complexion and hair dark, wore a dark green skirt, a brown petticoat, a long black jacket and a black bonnet. The body of this third victim of someone residents are calling Jacopo the Headtaker has been removed to a local mortuary, and the city watch are making inquiries.
By Grugny's pick, I think I've heard enough. This boils my blood. But he was caught.
He was, but information is scarce. The hunt proper took place just recently, but it was in the wake of the shock election of a new leader of the city fathers, the council of merchant patriarchs who run the city, the men who hired you. The new leader was a man called Squire Marco Broglio, and his machinations to consolidate power, swiftly followed by the invasion of the Ratmen, then the assassination of the Skaven leader Cankerclaw Darkheart by your good selves, and then the coup, and the murder and incarceration of many members of the City Fathers, including its most senior and respected member, Meldo Marcelli the Elder, has thrown everything into darkness. In the ensuing chaos, his son, another Meldo, did manage to escape the city before being done in. He took with him many of his family's soldiers and has apparently declared himself the Prince of Tobaro whilst in exile, and vowed to liberate the city. A pretty interesting political move, but if he's successful, he could well take that position on his return. Who knows? The higher-ups simply jostle and jostle to get ahead of each other, whilst we, regular folk, are the ones who suffer and pay the price, be that in coin or misery. Anyway, not long after assuming dictatorial power, in a show of magnanimity, a gift to his supporters and allies in Tobaro to keep them distracted, Broglio ordered a manhunt of Jacopo the Headtaker, and it was Murdoch Volkman who was one of the bloodhounds of the hunting party. The real leader of the motley band was apparently a greenskin, an orc no less, and the henchman of one of Broglio's most trusted underlings, a man called Cronthog Hornhelm. This orc, whose name we don't know, and a mob of hobgoblins tore through Porto, led by Volkman, following clue after clue, until eventually they cornered a likely suspect and captured them. It is said that this suspect's lair was decorated by the dangling heads of his victims. The murderer was then taken into the Palazzo del Vonto to be tortured and interrogated. All this was written up on an official city notice board down by the wharves. A great victory for Broglio, a sign that he was there to protect us from danger, be that murderers or Skaven, whilst simultaneously taking away our rights and freedoms. Then He declared an alliance with the Ratmen. It's all for show, you see.
I do see. And don't worry, he'll get his comeuppance. All tyrants do, eventually.